Why does a person that never was a slave deserve compensation from a person that never owned a slave?
Bank of America and much of the U.S. financial system were built on the profits from slavery, using enslaved people as loan collateral and even owning them when debts weren't paid. These same institutions, which grew into billion-dollar corporations from the slavery of our ancestors, continue to uphold systems of institutional racism that today prevent Black people from building generational wealth. The horrors of slavery didn't end with emancipation. They left deep scars that still shape the lives of Black people today. This inherited trauma, known as post-traumatic slave syndrome, is rooted in generations of violence, ripped apart families, and stolen identity. It continues to affect mental health, family relationships, and the overall well-being of Black people. The U.S. government has paid reparations to Japanese Americans interned during World War II, and even Americans held hostage in Iran. Yet the only people paid for slavery were the slave owners for losing their slaves after the Civil War. The victims of slavery were never paid. Our ancestors were stolen and endured some of the most violent atrocities in human history. So white people in this country could build their largely unearned generational wealth that they still sit on today, while Black people have been systemically denied the right to build and pass down the wealth we fought hard to earn for generations. Because every single time we did build, for example, Black Wall Street in Tulsa, the whites burned down the entire town and slaughtered every single Black person that they could find. You stole our ancestors. You stole their labor, which made the U.S. an economic superpower. You stole their futures. You dehumanized, brutalized, and traumatized them. Then that generational trauma was passed down to their descendants, who you continue to traumatize and brutalize with your systems of oppression put into place to limit and prevent us from creating generational wealth. And you refuse to dismantle your systems of oppression because that would be admitting that white prosperity was built on Black suffering. But you still owe for the centuries of unspeakable atrocities, because reparations are not charity. It's an unpaid debt that you owe.
Hey guys, welcome back again to my channel. It's so good to have you. Thank you so much for clicking. When you saw these videos, recently Black Americans have said they are sitting the whole protest out. All the protest that is currently happening in LA and every part of America, Black Americans said, we are not going anywhere. It is not our business. It is not our fight and all that. And a lot of Latinos are not really excited about it. Some of them have tried so much to gaslight them into coming out. And yet they keep saying, this is not our fight. We are not coming out for any reason. You guys should do this one. It is your fight now, because lots of you guys voted for this. So you now have this man who came out and said that, the people who are currently living now, that's the white Americans, are not owing any reparation, and Black Americans do not, are not, cannot be asking for reparation from people who didn't do anything to them. Well, let's go watch. Credit to all creators on this video.
Why does a person that never was a slave deserve compensation from a person that never owned a slave?
The fact that this question is coming from a person of color makes this all the more despicable. But since you've shown the world how little you know about history and finances in this country, let me help you out just a little bit. And you don't need a college education to know this, maybe high school at the very least. You ready? The same way that generational wealth can be passed down through generations, generational debt can also be passed down through generations. If the descendants of slave owners who created these multi-billion-dollar financial institutions off of the free, back-breaking, unending 4 centuries, 12 to 16 generations of chattel slavery, is still benefiting from that wealth today in 2025, then why shouldn't the descendants of those slaves be able to have the debt paid to them that was never paid to their ancestors? It doesn't matter if the people now didn't own the slaves. What matters is that they are still benefiting from the wealth that was created because of those slaves who were never paid. Do you understand that? This is not rocket science, my friend. It's common sense, and clearly you're showing the world that you're void of it. And I'm not really sure what you're hoping to get out of this, but if you think your pandering pick-me-ass behavior is going to get those same descendants of that generational wealth to give you a few dollars, then you have truly lost your mind. You will never be picked. You will never be in the situation that black people are in today to be owed that generational debt. Because your ancestors, unless you are the descendants of African slaves, did not survive these horrific atrocities only to never be compensated. Baby, we didn't even get the 40 acres and the mule that was promised to us. But guess who did get paid for the losses that they incurred? I'm just going to go ahead on and tell you, because if you're asking this question, you're never going to be able to figure it out. The slave owners, which provided more wealth that they were able to invest and turn into business, multiply exponentially, and pass down through generations. I hope that helps you.
I have a slightly hot take, and it's probably already been said, but they don't want to give black people reparations because they know that if we receive reparations, we would leave. A lot of us want to leave, and the big reason why we don't leave is because we have no means to leave. We don't have the money to live somewhere else. We're barely living here. So they know. Also, they're fucking cruel and just disgusting, but they know if they gave us reparations, we would leave, and they would have nobody to oppress. They would have nobody to do whatever the fuck they want to do to. And they keep talking about birthright citizenship, and they got their way with the Supreme Court. We all know that. But they do know that it applies to them mostly. I don't think it matters because, you know, in the back of their minds, they probably do understand that it applies to them, but they don't think that the rules apply to them ever. Anyway, so... But if you start rounding up black people because for whatever reasons you decide that we're not citizens, where are you deporting us to? Although let's not kid ourselves, we know that it's not about deportation. It's about kidnapping. It's about doing the same thing that they did hundreds of years ago. If they figure out a way to do it, they probably will. But again, that's why we'll never get reparations, period. Under any administration. Never. They don't want us to leave. They want us here.
Why did some people actually have issues with this whole reparation thing? Like, why do they always bring it forth whenever they want to make some comparison? Why? Now, this Latino man is bringing this just because Black Americans are saying they are sitting this one out. They are not protesting with anyone. They are not coming out to, scream out just because of any community, because all this while they called everyone and told them this was the best person to vote for. The policies that this man have might not be favorable to you all, especially because his entire campaign was run with the whole mass deportation thing, and he was so loud about it. It's not like he didn't tell you guys he was going to deport people. Everyone knew that he said he was going to deport people. So why then are you guys acting like you didn't know that there was going to be deportation in the first place? So now that the whole deportation thing is happening, you guys are not asking for black help. And the black people we are not interested in helping anybody because we told you all that this was going to happen. And you guys chose him over a black woman who said she was going to offer immigration reform and all of that. You guys decided to choose somebody who said he was going to deport instead. And now that the whole deportation is happening, you guys are now expecting black Americans to come out on the street and start protesting alongside you guys. So now that they said they are not coming out, this man is talking about why would they be expecting a person who was not there, during the whole slavery thing, to pay reparation to somebody who was never affected or wasn't a slave in the first place. Now let's even take it back, like the first speaker said, right? This man said something. He said that the guy said something, the first guy, he said something, and that was like he was talking about how there is something called generational wealth and how it's passed is from generation to generation. So that in turn happens to generational debt. So if your grandparents or your great grandparents is owing and it got to your grandparents, they said they cannot pay, you wait for your parent. And if your parents cannot make that payment, you got to pay. Because that's the same way your grandparents pass wealth from their generation to your great grandparents, pass generation from their generation to your grandparents, to your parents, then to you. So how then will you say that you are not part of this when in essence you are 100% part of it? Because you all kind of enjoy the dividends of it. And that's the reason why all these people have been talking about the whole reparation. And it's as if, like the woman said, that this would never be paid because they do not want them to leave the US in any way. And that's her speculation, because why would you want to leave, tell somebody to leave when you're not even ready to settle the person in the first place? So it really baffles me when I see how people are making comparison with the whole Latino deportation and that of Black Americans who served as slaves in like 400 years ago. You can't even compare that. You guys are just being deported. You guys keep complaining that part of the land is yours. I don't know how that happened, and people keep saying in the comment section on how you guys sold it for a particular amount. But that's not what we're talking about today. What we're just saying is that you cannot compare those slaves and what they went through and what you guys are going through now, right? You cannot compare it, because every one of you know that that is not true. What you guys are going through now is them asking you to go back to your country. If those enslaved people had the opportunity that you guys have now, I think it would have been better, right? I don't think everybody would have even gotten crazy about the whole thing right now. There might not even be such history, you know. They went through deeper things. They went through things, thick and thin, to make sure that they pay the price that allowed your grandparents, your great grandparents, to arrive in the US as a person of color and reside in the country, got a resident permit, got a citizenship, and now they are living in the same country. And yet, you guys come in and it's as if you are not trying to make it look like you guys are the real deal, forgetting that there were people who really paid the price. So instead of you complaining and trying to make the whole comparison, why don't you start from your people? Right? Try to start from your people. If you want to speak up for your people that are getting deported on a daily, then it's better than you trying as much as possible to remind people that they were supposed to get reparation, which they never get to date. They it's just as if you are trying to remind them what they have already forgotten, right? You're trying to bring back old history and old memory, which you don't even clearly understand. Because if you clearly understand that, you won't be asking the same question that you just asked about how people who never had slave will now be asking for reparation, you know, and it just doesn't make sense at all. Because if you really understand how, what they went through at that time, how difficult those years for them, you would have had, you would have just kept calm and not make some videos. Okay. And this is one thing about magas and how they support themselves and some of the things that is really happening. It's really funny that some of you will want sympathy from the same people that you have never shown any kind of compassion from. So that's really very, very funny. You want sympathy from them, but you have never for once shown compassion in anything that concerns them. And that's why we are sitting this one out. We are not coming out to protest along you. We're not coming out to do anything. We are resting. 2025 project is to rest. And yeah, Black people are sitting this one out and they are also resting. So I guess everyone just let them be, right? Well, guys, let me know what you think about this video. Let's just have that conversation, in the comment section. Let me know what you think. And please consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button to be a part of the family. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up so that more people can see it. I look forward to seeing you all on my next video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye.